Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Science of Self. Thanks for joining us today. We have a guest on the podcast today, Dan Bowling. I'm going to ask Dan to take a few minutes, introduce himself, and share some insights on some of the things he's accomplished in his life, some of his viewpoints, and how they apply to our listeners. And then, as usual, take the conversation from there. Dan, introduce
Great.
yourself.
Hello. Pleasure to be here. Yeah, high level. So I own and founded a globally recognized sales and marketing firm. We've got 25 people that work here. Our specialty is scaling consumer product brands. One of the many things that makes us special is we do it on all channels. For us as a company, we're very philanthropic. Our company has fed over 1 million children. We've saved 200 girls from human trafficking. We've funded like domestic abuse awareness for over 100 kids. So what we try to do is help brands grow and at the same time really redefine what success is.
Tell us
Yeah.
about Toying Around.
Yeah, so that's our division that would focus specifically on physical retail. The parent company is the Genesis company. It's a business, but really a business is just the sum of the people. So, why we've been successful and we've won like Inc. magazine awards multiple times is because of how great our team works together, how unified of an approach we have. It really is rooted in one thing that we hold hands on and agree. And it's this mantra of create a better story. We have a lot of things that we believe to be true here, but one of them that really grounds everything that we do is this idea that everybody wants to be part of a larger story. I was living in Atlanta and I was very surprised, even though I played college sports, I love sports, but I would see people like very affected in their behavior, mood, or attitude on a Monday morning based on if their favorite sports team won. And down there, it's not even pro sports, it's college sports, which take place on Saturday. So I'm like, 48 hours later, people are showing up to work like, noticeably affected, whether they won or lost. You're not even on the team. And it really started me down this path of like what grounds us all. And I think a core thing there is that we all want to be a part of a larger story. So that really rooted our philosophy as a company with this idea of like, let's come together and create a better story.
What does it mean to your employees to be involved in a company or a organization like that?
Yeah, well, it starts with setting this vision, right? Where they're all excited to come to work every day and making their to-do list more about the larger story that they're playing. Like, hey, when you do this on a mundane Tuesday in February, which if you know anything about Minnesota, like February is awful, right? The sun hasn't shined and it's below zero. But if you come into work and you get that thing done, like you affected somebody's life, that's what we're talking about. How we can make sure that we all have this vision of when we come together, we're part of this larger story. This is a very exciting place. Before COVID was even a thing, I put together an idea to do work from home or work from anywhere, like 2 days a week, because I'm always trying to think about like, what if I worked here, like what would I want, right? So from a benefit standpoint, which I'll get in later, like what benefits would I want if I worked here? So I announced to everybody this new policy where you can work from wherever you want 2 days a week on a Monday or a Friday, and everybody hated it. They were like, "Are you kidding me? Like, we want to come work. We want to come see everybody. I want to be next to my colleagues. I don't want to work at home." If you think you're going to fail, you probably are, right? So we have this whole system called we call it like a belief flywheel. And here's what we see over and over and over. And I've seen this happen in my own life. I've seen it happen in our business as it grows. And then we see it happen with all of our customers, where first you have to be very concrete on like, what do you believe? And not to make this about business, but if the business is, I believe that we're going to grow X amount because of these reasons, or if it's a personal goal, I believe I want to do or I can do X, Y, and Z. Like it really starts with that belief. And that what happens is this flywheel, right? So if you believe something with all your heart, mind, and soul, that should give you, right, the raw material to consistently go after it. And what's great there is success is really one thing. The raw material of success is consistency, right? So if you believe, right, that should give you the material to consistently do that action, and you're going to have results. I don't care what you're trying to do. If you go and you consistently do it every day, or every hour or every week, depending on what your goal is, you will get better. When I started this company, I had a belief of like, well, I think we can get to 50 million in sales managed. We got there. Then what? All right, well, maybe it's 100. So we got there, right? And now our goal is like 750 million. And we're halfway there, and it's like, of course we'll get there. Like, I know that we will get there. And I think that's the other thing when you set goals out there is just recognizing and remembering that there's no laws that can stop us from getting there. There's no glass ceiling that we live under. There really is opportunity for everybody, right? It's an infinite economy for the most part. So that's true for your business. It's also true in your personal life. A lot of people are like, oh, somebody else has X, Y, and Z. It doesn't mean you can't. There's not X amount of whatever out there for us to go get. So it's really a beautiful, exciting place. We're so blessed to live in this country. I know we have a lot of problems, but for the most part, you're free to believe what you want to believe and then go execute on that. And that's a wonderful, wonderful freedom. A flywheel is anything where as soon as you add to it, it spins faster, right? So every action kind of begets the movement of the next action. And I would say in business or in your personal life, like anytime you have a goal, what you're trying to create is this flywheel where you're building and building and building. And at some level, like that's kind of the secret sauce to continue to hit whatever goal you might have, right? So once you have success, like then your belief grows, and then you just keep going and keep going. But it really comes down to consistency. Almost every crime can lead back to not having a father figure, which is amazing and a topic maybe for a different podcast. But statistically speaking, like I should not be here. But I decided at a really young age that I could decide that the world's either working for me or it's working against me. Whatever you decide to believe there is going to radically change your whole life. So if you think the world's working against you, then absolutely it is. Because every single time that something negative has, your flywheel is going to keep turning, right? Your belief is negative. The world's out to get me. I'm never going to be enough. All right, there's your belief. Now your flywheel is going to turn because you're going to continue to believe that over and over. Or you can look at the opposite way. The world's working for me. So do I want to be paralyzed again? No. But I never would have won any state records. I never would have played college sports if I wouldn't have been paralyzed. Because having that taken away from me, it was the only way, and I believe this to be true, that I would have realized how wonderful it is to run. Your inputs, right? So like I rarely listen to the news. I might get a couple snippets here because I don't want to be clueless of what's going on, but the news doesn't exist to really inform. They're all for-profit companies. They exist to get you glued to the TV and freak you out, which is why like how many times has your heart rate gone over 120 or 150 for something that never happens, right? And I think psychologically, this is a great stat. I know your listeners love statistics. I think this won't be exact because I'm a generalist, but I believe it's something to the effect of like 80% or 83% of the things that you worry about happening never happen. Like never happen. We spend most of our life on a Monday worrying about Tuesday instead of enjoying Monday. How do they feel? How do they view the world? Who are they as a human? Because that's who's coming to work every day. There's no such thing as like, business Dan and then home Dan. Like we're one human. And what happens at home affects how I show up to work, and what happens at work affects how I show up at home. And that's another thing that I talk to. We'll have like a holiday party. So all the spouses, everybody will be there. I'll make sure I tell them, like, I'm doing everything I can to make sure that after work, I send the people back home to you. Everybody loves to be successful. So it's like, how are we going to win? And then how do you celebrate that win? I think that's a huge thing too, within like all of the negativity, right? Which we just don't even allow. How do you input then celebrations? And I think it's important to really celebrate as much as possible. And I'm not talking about like parties, but just like acknowledging what we've accomplished, because that, right, that also strengthens the belief mindset of the individual and then therefore the entire company. We all have negative thoughts and there's bad things that happen and there's a safe place to talk about it. Sometimes things happen and it sucks, right? And it hits you hard. And you have to talk about it. I'm not saying you bury all that, but you talk about it, then you realize what it is. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get stronger. It's an opportunity to get smarter. It's an opportunity to pick up market share. It's an opportunity to learn, right? So it's like, hey, I wanted to lose X amount of weight, or I wanted to do A, B, and C, and I didn't. All right, now you know. Gosh, you didn't, which by the way, failing at something is most likely the best education in the world, right? Like if you did something successful, you probably already knew how to do it. You didn't learn anything. If you failed, you absolutely learned something. A key tactic for that I learned a long time was actually meditation. I think meditation is unbelievably powerful. And I do it like 3 times a week for 20 minutes. So this isn't something where, from my point of view, we have to go sit in the woods for 2 hours, every day. But step one is you have to recognize like what thoughts are you allowing into your brain? And that was a huge surprise to me when I first started this. It was like, oh my gosh, there's like a million things flying in my head all the time. This idea, this or that. And step one for me was recognizing like what am I believing? Like what am I thinking all the time? And once you learn like to kind of quiet that down, then you can work on what you're going to input into it. Right? I know everything not to go do. Now, would I have rather have him teach me by being great? Yes. But either way, this was a learning moment for me, right? And like my goal is to be the best dad and husband in the world, right? And who taught me that? My dad did, indirectly by not doing it, right? So then I took that and I thought, okay, how can I, help as many kids as possible? Because statistically, the kids that are in trouble or are struggling most likely don't have a father figure. So from my standpoint, it's like I didn't have a dad. How can I go be a dad to millions, right? Or as many people as I can. That's an example of, to answer your question, of like how something negative in my life happened, how I'm going to use that to do something really positive. It's basically this idea that everything you see was created by somebody just like you. Right. And I think for me, that was really an important moment in my life. I remember my first job and I got invited to a meeting and I'm working with the executives at this massive company. And I won't say the name of the company, but it's a massive company. And I remember being like 25 or 26, and this might sound super arrogant, but I'll share the truth. I thought in there, I was kind of disappointed. I thought when I get to the business world and I'm working with like senior executives that they were going to be the most brilliant, smartest, well-spoken, unbelievably perfect people, right? Like business robots. And I realized they're just kind of like me, just 20 years older, a little smarter, which they should be because they've been doing this thing for 20 years, right? And I remember being very disappointed. But then I remembered the Steve Jobs quote. And it's like, well, no, that was a false belief. In all that you do, try to educate versus entertain, podcast, audiobooks, whatever. And on your favorite subject, like there's something, and if you don't know what this is, like here's it to do. And it can be go on a walk and think about it every morning till something inside you comes alive, or go journal, or go try to meditate and see like what's that thing your brain keeps going back to. But there's something inside of all of us, right, that we were either, created to do, which would be my belief, or you evolved to do that you really love doing. And whatever that topic is, like go be an expert on that. Like that's what you love. So go throw as many inputs as you can on that. Right. So that would be number one. Like if you ask me, hey, do you want to have a normal life, or an extraordinary life? Everybody will say, I think extraordinary life.
Right.
Okay. So therefore, I don't want to be like most people. It sounds bad, but I don't like if I don't want to be like everyone else, then I don't want to be like most people, right? So therefore, what I do with my time and what I do with my thoughts are going to be weird. It's going to be different, right? Like yes, I get up at like 4:30 and yes, I do like a cold plunge. And yes, I do all these things that some people are like, that's so weird. Like you don't listen to music, you just listen to audiobooks. That's weird. And I'm like, that's right. And I embrace the weird because I don't want to be normal. I want to be abnormal. And that's weird. So that's another thing I just want to hit of like, you might have a goal and you're like, you're afraid because you might feel weird or different or judged. great. Because that's when you know you're on your way to being special, is when you're not like anything else around you. So embrace, I'll leave you with this, embrace the weird. It's the way to go.